You're now the responsible party for committing millions upon millions of dollars to buy a company that you know too little about. Based upon your careful analysis of deal drivers and calculations of synergies, you've promised the board a specific rate of return. You've invested countless hours and many weekends cut short by the massive amount of work needed to get this deal ready for close. To say the least, you've got a lot riding on this deal turning out well. This presentation discusses pragmatic approaches to change management as practiced in M&A events. It discusses the change management theory, integration management planning, or playbooks, implementation, and team building while communicating effectively with your stakeholders, which are key topics for successful management of change. It will address how change affects your people and can endanger the success of your M&A events if not handled correctly. We all know that over half of M&A integrations fail to meet expectations due to failed synergy or deal driver capture and unrealized cost savings. Revenue and shareholder value declines. Organizations don't embrace the necessary changes. Customers are confused. Key employees leave. Reputation is damaged. As the corporate moat narrows, competition steps in. Lacking internal expertise and capacity slows the process and control is lost. The degree to which you overcome these challenges is correlated to your success and the increase in shareholder value. The challenges we will be focusing on will be those organizational challenges in point number 2. The need to manage resistance is thousands of years old, but perhaps Machiavelli put it best in the 16th century.
And it ought to be remembered that there is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success, than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Because the innovator has for enemies all those who have done well under the old conditions, and lukewarm defenders in those who may do well under the new. This coolness arises partially from fear of the opponents, who have laws on their side, and partly from the incredulity of men, who do not readily believe in new things until they have had a long experience of them. Thus it happens that whenever those who are hostile have the opportunity to attack, they do it like partisans, whilst the others defend lukewarmly.
As you can see, this dilemma was as true in the 1500s in the city-states as it is in the boardrooms today.
Many times in my career, I've been called upon to facilitate the rapid forming of teams, either as a result of reorganizations or mergers. In M&A transactions, you go through Tuckman's stages twice. Once with the due diligence teams, the work streams, which is pre-deal close, and once during the integration of the organizations, which is post-deal close. It is important to understand the stages teams go through so that you can support them through this process and get them through the high performance stages, whether it be due diligence teams, work stream teams, or the eventual new organization. In the stakeholder productivity scale, 1 is nominal before you begin. Forming describes the period of time after the initial creation of a new team when individual members get to know each other. The lowest productivity is typically an indicator of storming, which again, negative productivity can actually be a sort of positive because you have fully transitioned into storming. Once you get storming out of the way, you negotiate team norms and rules of engagement, which is what norming is all about. All of this is to get to performing, which is high productivity, high performance teaming. Adjourning occurs when project teams are formed for a specific purpose. In M&A transactions, you also go through the stages of change twice. And this will be a much greater challenge and doubly so at the acquired company. A lot of the impact to your organization will come in the form of passive resistance, especially from the acquired company, regardless of what the leadership proclaimed. Understanding what your staff and the acquired staff are going through will better enable you to help them move through the transition and to accomplish the necessary changes more effectively. This transition curve is extrapolated from the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross model on the stages of grief. The first reaction to a formal announcement of a transactional event is shock. People may feel numb and emotionless and will think, I can't believe this. From shock, they go into denial, an unwillingness to accept the truth, and will think, this can't be happening. Your staff may begin to feel anger. They may wish to blame everyone else and think, who did all this to us? From anger, people move to depression, which is a form of resistance. Performance may even drop more. Having accepted the situation and started to move forward, the organization is now beginning to make forward-looking decisions. In the final stage of harmony, people are now fully engaged and are able to look back with a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. The organization will accept change as the new normal. Continuing with understanding what your staffs will be experiencing and how to manage the transition, not all experts agree. In the spirit of fairness, the stages we just discussed are no longer universally accepted. In contemporary research, these stages are now being debated, even hotly contested. Friedman and James believe the stages extrapolated from Kubler-Ross's original work are inaccurately named and largely imaginary. The stages are viewed as too simplistic, and not one view fits all people because grief is highly individualized. You can use the stages as guidelines, but recognize that not everyone is the same. Following the previous slide, George Bonanno, who counseled grief victims of 9/11, also believes that no set of stages or model fits everyone because grief is highly individualized. In his New Science of Bereavement, he believes that the individual resilience has the greatest effect of recovery for grief and the ability to deal with change. Only 1 in 10 people experience chronic, long-term grief. Those people may unfortunately be victims of any acquisition, regardless of the reorganizational plans, and may not survive the transition to the new organization. This is just a reality of the business of M&A. 1 in 10 experience recovery pattern and may take a long period of time to recover, but will recover. These people take more of an investment of time, but they are generally worth the investment. He believes that perhaps half or more of all people are highly resilient and can, in a matter of as little as a few weeks or a couple of months, be well on their way. These people may continue to function normally during this time. These are the people you are betting your future on. They are the ones who will make the new organization successful. We believe that more resilient people are able to effectively adapt to change through commitment, control, challenge, and connection. Identify these resilient people. They are the ones who will help ease the organization through the transformation and into the future. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. American psychologist Abraham Maslow viewed humans as having a relatively small set of basic needs that form a hierarchy. Lowest are physiological needs, and highest is the self-actualization needs. Hertzberg's two-factor theory. Frederick Hertzberg theorized that after a worker's hygiene needs, for example, status, job security, salary, fringe benefits, working conditions, they cause job dissatisfaction, while motivators, for example, challenging work, recognition, and responsibility, cause job satisfaction. Reinforcement theory. Motivation is a function of consequences. Managers can improve employee performance with positive reinforcers such as bonuses or negative consequences such as pay cuts. Goal theory and management by objective, MBO, is defining objectives so that management and employees agree to the objectives and understand what they need to do in order to achieve them. Expectancy theory assumes workers rationally determine their level of effort in a particular situation and tend to behave to optimize results. Finally, equity theory suggests when employees perceive they have been treated unfairly, they are motivated to restore a sense of fairness. They will put into the job what they perceive they are getting out of it. Cultural factors have a significant impact on management of change, whether it be language differences, how people are motivated, the structure of societies, etc. Even if you are a small to medium-sized domestic company, you likely have a very diverse workforce, supply chain, and client base. There are numerous cultural factors that can be taken into account. Here is a subset we have chosen that we believe is the most relevant to management of change in an M&A environment. Individualism versus collectivism is take care of yourself, individual recognition and decisions versus hierarchy, obedience, face, and group decisions. Fatalism versus egalitarianism is haves and have not, fate and power imbalance versus equality, group decisions, equal rights, and decentralized power. Low power versus high power distance is decentralized, equality, question authority, high initiative and mobility versus power has its privileges, don't question, low initiative, and mobility. Short-term versus long-term orientation is absolute truth, tradition, time is money, all about business, near-term rewards versus virtue, adaptation, haste is waste, all about relationships, learning and development. Task versus relationship orientation is what you do, get down to business, hire the best at specific skills versus who you are, get to know each other, hire who you trust. Risk tolerance versus uncertainty avoidance is focus on opportunities, big picture, informal, unstructured versus focus on threats, detail, formal, rules and regulations. Finally, we have low context, versus high context. And this is say what you mean, no body language, black and white, contracts versus implied meaning, subtle body language, shades of gray, agreements.
In acquisitions, the higher the level of integration, the greater the change and the greater the resistance. Therefore, the greater the need for an effective change management program with effective communications. In this graph, we show 3 levels of integration as examples. Wholly owned subsidiaries or standalone, which is also referred to as bolt-ons. Adopt and go, which is the best of both. And fully integrated enterprise, which is greenfield. This is a sample of the main topics to be addressed when planning for management of change in M&A transactions. Planning for management of change is very much like planning for any sort of transaction workstream. The management of change plan is normally part of the overall integration management plan or playbook. A phased plan needs to be developed that prioritizes all of the work to be done and at the same time sets the correct pace of change. Determine a rollout sequence across locations and organizations and projects. Identify and empower the change agents in the organization and provide awareness and training. Above all, you need to stay as competitive as you were before the transaction took place. Keep focus on the deal drivers or synergies, and focus on those things that are in the value chain that leads to realizing those deal drivers or synergies. Don't lose clients, revenue, margin, or market position. Announcing a change creates fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This may expose weaknesses, and your competition will likely come after you. Defend your corporate moat during this time. Establish schedules that create sufficient change, but not so much that it negatively disrupts the business. If you declare victory too soon, the focus will be taken away from your efforts, and all traces of your hard work could soon disappear. Successful companies consistently reevaluate their change efforts, determine where other areas can be improved, such as employee development and retention, new projects, new systems, and structures. We know that time is money, but you must remember that change takes time. Whether you decide to get the work of integration done yourself or leverage the expertise and experience of an outside firm, you'll need resources. We have produced videos on topics of interest in M&A integration. We also have articles and presentation on various related topics which you can browse on our site. We offer seminar workshops on key M&A areas. We offer predefined M&A deliverables and tools needed for M&A transactions. We also have a cadre of senior consultants who can provide a variety of M&A integration consulting services. We hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. This is a sample of topics covered in our full-day workshop on organizational management of change in M&A. Let Abyss Program Management be your guide. We've been there and back. Abyss Program Management LLC is a global program management consulting practice. We are problem solvers specializing in M&A integration. The best practices you just viewed are the compilation of what our firm has learned from over 60 years' experience, having managed portfolios of programs with annual revenues in excess of $10 billion. We have a breadth of capability with successful programs, startups, and turnarounds in 23 countries on 5 continents. We use pragmatic tools and recommendations based on experience. We are never slaves to processes and procedures. We provide our clients with the quick response called for in the fast-paced environment of the deal, with regional offices around the country in Boston, Dallas, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. Contact us for an initial consultation and let's chat about how we can partner to maximize your returns.